Good afternoon, everybody. For anybody who doesn't know, this is Ed Carter, and welcome to the Trader Vision 2020 workshop for this week. I want to thank Doug for his artwork there. Hi, Art. How you doing? We'll try to keep it to 45 minutes today, but we'll see how it goes. I won't dodge any questions. If you've got them, I'll stick around and answer them. Let's get started here. So the agenda for today, there's nothing major. If you've got questions, ask them. I have nothing major planned other than updating some trades and planning some trades, showing you how to use the tool. I want to give you some updates on the feature trade ideas that I've been putting in the blog. And if anybody is unaware, let me drag that page over here. So this is the website, and if you go to Trade Ideas, TV 2020 Trade Plans, you will see the blog there, and every morning I post trade setup and trade plans once it loads. As you can see, the chart markup as well as the trade plan, and then a link to the video, which I also post on YouTube. So check that out every morning if you are not already doing so. Let's go ahead and get through some of these stocks, then we'll answer some questions and see if we can't find a couple new charts to plan here. So, and we'll do this. So on the blog account, I'll get it together, guys. Hold on. Okay, on the blog account here, we've had a couple trades close. Currently, we have 4 trades open. Yesterday's trade, a market short through a long or inverse ETF, did not execute. I wanted to see the bears show follow through before we entered, and we did not get that. And I'm glad we didn't, based on today's gap. So we're up in the last, whatever this has been, 2 or 3 weeks, $2,500 in the account. Currently, GTN had a stellar day, and that was our big winner. We'll adjust that one. GIS and KHC was today's entry. Kraft Heinz, they just haven't got going, and we've got about $100 to the good on OMI. Let's look at a couple that have closed here in the last week, since last week's session. CDNA, as you can see, we had taken out that second target up here, and that's the day we exited, and that's to the good because we waffled around, had a big scary day that would have stopped us out anyway, and put in a pretty nasty candle here today. So we closed that trade out with a nice little, the second target was a almost 26% run, and we'll put a little cool little almost 20% overall, 866 into the account, and so that was a nice trade. I probably should grade my discipline while I was here. Almost all of mine are going to be 5 because I follow the plan. I did not make any mistakes in terms of chasing on the entry or being scared out or anything of that nature, so I'm pretty happy with what we've got there. I will go ahead and mark us was normal at exit and normal at entry. I made it come to me, and normal during the trade as well. So I'll go ahead and close that. DDD is one that I actually did make an adjustment on. As you can see, I made several adjustments moving the stop, and then I closed it early at 14.23. Let's go look at that DDD. I still think it's a good chart, but it was on that market scare the other day. I wanted to get the profits off the table while we were at that first target and not risk it. And I'm glad that I did. It was a scary day. We would have still been in, and it's still a nice looking chart, but I'm happy to have taken the trade off there with that first target in tow. You can see the moves of the stops that I put in place. So we closed it out early. I didn't quite get that first target. I got 14.23 on when I closed out the second half of the trade. But overall, we did almost 8%, $312. Not quite, but very close to our trade goal. On this one, I'm going to give my discipline about a 3. And I may have been scared out a little bit early on this one by the bad market gap. So I was normal with entry. I was probably I would call it normal during the trade, and then I was fearful at the exit on that trade. And the reason we're grading these trades is because we'll be able to go back and look at a performance when you have 5-star discipline versus 3-star discipline versus 1-star discipline, etc., and also across these emotions, so that we will then have some good data as to helping us improve what needs to be improved. So I think those were the two that have closed out since last week. Yeah, that seems about right. And SDAO did not execute yesterday. And then the open positions, we have GIS. Let's go look at that chart. It just has not been able to get it going. Bad day a couple days ago, and just indecisive at this breakout level. Hasn't fallen off the rails. It very much scared me because I had moved the stop up. I thought I had tightened too early, but we didn't quite get stopped out today. Ended up back above the breakout level, so that one's still in play. We still have a long way to go to make that first target. Well, you have to use the tool however you want, Jake. Sometimes it is smart to be fearful, and sometimes it's a mistake. I guess, in my opinion, the only way, use the tool however you want, but in my opinion, the only way to truly to say is to do hindsight. So I was scared and I got out, and the market reversed and stayed, ended up not positive, but far from the bottom. And so I made a judgment there that I should have, if I had stuck with the plan, I would still be in, and it's still a nice looking chart and still a trade I would want to be in. So in that case, it was a mistake. It could very well have turned out the other way, that it was a great idea to get out, because it could have fallen, the whole market could have come apart on that trade tweet. So you don't know, but in this case, the only way I know to measure things that way is to, after the fact, say, was it a good decision or not, based on results. GTN is the next trade idea here. GTN had a great day today. Ran up and took out our first target. Let's drop down to a 5-minute chart. and I think 1320. Yeah, 1320. So when did we take out 1320? About probably in here is when I got filled. So let's call it 255. I would have to check my statement to see for sure, but let's just say that the order placed at 255. So that makes it 14. I think I said 55. So we've got basically half the trade-off, a little more than half actually, at 10% gain. We're still writing 150 shares, and we're still working. But so far we've put 250 bucks in our pocket towards our 350 goal. Yeah, Jake, it is difficult to know exactly how to do it, but I would rather be more tough on myself if it worked out positive. What I want to continue to do is reinforce myself what I know works, which is stick to the plan. I had already made the decision that I was willing to risk X percentage that day when that day opened, and I should have stuck with the plan, in my opinion. So that's how I come to that decision, if you will. Let's go back to the daily. So this was a great candle. It's time to move our stop up. What does V-stop say here? V-stop says 1253, which is right about there. And I think that's reasonable. So let's create a parallel line and put it up here about 1253. In fact, let's move this over here. It's hard to adjust these suckers within a few pennies. So let's go ahead back into GTN. What is today? 620. And let's see. What's the next ticker? OMI. OMI is working now. It finally got going here. Indecisive days, but gap up and a bullish day. It's moving. Owens and Minor, medical distributor. Still have another 6% up here to our first target. The RBB still working, nothing wrong here. Let's go ahead and look at that, see if we need to move our stop. V-stop says about 1650, which is going to put us up in here. I could see that. Let's create a parallel line. Let's move that up over here. And go ahead and adjust the stop on this. And that's how you update your records. The next one is GTN. I think maybe I already looked at GTN. GIS is probably the one I need to look at next. This is the problem child. I'm confusing what I looked at here in this session and what I looked at in the other room where I was on the mic as well. But this one just can't get going. I thought we were off to the races here on that gap higher, but then we faded it right away. Big black candle. That's a dark cloud cover, but it has not followed through. So that bearish signal has not taken over. We have held above this breakout level. So we're working there. It scared me today. I had moved my stop up and it scared me, but it did not take us out. So we're not moving our stop there. There's nothing to adjust on GIS. We're still working. We still have all of our work ahead of us. What else have I not looked at? Maybe, I can't remember if I looked at, I think GTN I just modified. So KHC was today's trade. And KHC, we had an entry here this morning, almost at the open. Let's see what the chart has done. Worked a little bit. So we had our entry. It's not time to move the stop yet. That original plan is still good, and Heinz is still working. You could have been in this in options as well. Got a lot more leverage, a lot more bang for your buck. But for the purposes of the blog, I'm trading this as stock. So we've only got 60 shares, and we're looking to take 30 of it off up here at about 67.25. So that plan's working. If that plan works out and we get that second target, you see that we can put almost 11% for $411 in the bank, which exceeds our goal. And we've got very low risk, $100, $99 if we're stopped out. So that is a nice risk reward, a little over 4 to 1. I see some typing, so I'm going to hang on. Okay, let's go back in and I'll... So the initial cost to enter was $37.59, and that's only because to make this work across all the people who are following this, I'm using 0 commissions. You would have some slight amount of commission in there that would affect both the initial cost to enter as well as the all of the percentages and what have you. The maximum trade size is, I based it off of the max dollar stop to loss. There's more than one way to set this up. So let's go to Tools Options. There's an entire video on this, but what you can do is you can calculate how many shares to buy 3 different ways. I use maximum dollar loss to stop. So what I want to know is from my entry price down to the stop, how many total dollars would I lose for a position size? I'm saying that I want to have, and you change this for every trade if you want, but by default I'm doing $150 is what I want to risk per trade, and I want to make 320. So it calculates how many shares to buy with an entry price between that entry price and the stop to keep it below $150. That's how many shares it recommends to buy. And then I buy whatever, in this case you see it's 90 shares. However, 90 shares at this stock price would have been like 6+% of the account, and that's too big. So instead of buying 90 shares, my plan was to buy 60, which would keep it down to 3.67% of the account, and came up with this $37.59 entry price. Since it executed right at the open, I got exactly the price that I placed. We didn't gap through me. We opened just below my price and ran up through it. So I got my price, and these numbers match up. That $99 basically tells me, at risk, tells me that between $62.65 and my stop at $61 is $99 on 60 shares. The other ways you could calculate your position size is total dollars for a position. So you could say I want my every position to be, $5,000 or 10,000, whatever your number is, so that all your trades are the same size, and that would calculate it that way. Then how many shares for you to buy. You can also do it based on the average true range, which is kind of based on volatility, and that way more volatile stocks you would take less risk, take fewer shares, because the more risk you take, or the more volatile a stock, the less shares you want because you have more risk there. So that's basically all that is, and how that works out. The maximum loss and gain is going to depend on the shares that you buy and the price you get, obviously, but this calculates out for each position at each target price what you would clear in profit. This is gain loss, not proceeds. A percentage based stop? No, nobody had asked for that at the moment. I can certainly add that to the development plan and build that in. I know that some people like to use, way back when I did trailing stops, and I would use like a 4.5% trailing stop that I would set, but you have to set the entry price, initially, at least with my broker. So, but yeah, you can do that, and I could set that up, but no, I basically don't agree with doing that sort of thing, because every stock is different. So let's just look at this for a second. Let's just say that you said you want a 2% stop. On a 2% stop for this stock, well, it would have been back here that we figured it. 2% of 62.14. I don't know what that number is. I can't do the math in my head right now while I'm talking. But whatever that number is for KHC may be reasonable. But on the other hand, for a stock like, I don't know, CDNA, a 2% stop may have been way too tight, because this one has much wider candles that move a lot more. And so it needs more room to play. Oh, I'm sorry, Jake. Yeah. For account size, yeah, you can actually. So if you go to goals, you can see here you plan by percent, and what you can do is you can say that I want my trades to be X percent of the account, and that's on average. So yeah, you could do that, and I can add that in if you want that as an option for position sizing as well. But you can calculate your trade size average so that you can see how you're doing versus what you had planned. So I had planned a 3% trade size, but I don't make that a strict requirement on every trade. And so some of these trades you can see are 4,000, some of them are 1,500. So I vary them not on percentage of account, but based on the amount of risk. So yeah, but if you're, I appreciate it, Art. Math is not going to work for me while I'm trying to talk and chew gum and walk at the same time. I'll end up in a wadded up ball someplace. But we can set that up to make you a hard decision that your position size is only going to be 2% of your account. But again, we'll make it such that you could. I believe that you have to have the ability to override that on a trade by trade basis. You may feel that you want to keep it at 2%, but on this trade I'm willing to go 3%, or on this trade, man, it's a volatile stock, I'm only willing to go 1%. So, but we can implement that. I'll make a note of that right now, and we'll add that to the development. Okay. What was I talking about? So I think I've covered all of our positions. So with that said, let me open it up to questions. There you go. That's a good idea, Art. If you have any questions, now's your time to ask them. Please don't be shy. Spit them out there. There was a gentleman that had been emailing me, but I see he hasn't made it tonight. And he was basically asking me about integrations. So let me talk about that while while I'm recording, so that in case he catches the recording, he can see that. Yeah, I will, Art. I will. Absolutely will. It's just not it's not coded in there now, so I'll add it to the development schedule. Yeah, right. It'll be an option. That won't. I would never. This. That's the part about having software that I'm trying to make it as flexible as possible, but that also makes it hard to define. You know, people want when a user talks to me, they want to know exactly how it works, and they want to know the only way that it works. Well, that's just not for a flexible tool. That's not what you get. You get, well, it could work like this, or it could work like that. You know, so, but we will add that. Regarding integrations, at the moment we have no integration set up. What does that mean? For all of you who are users, what that means is that you have to enter your trade, plan it in Trader Vision, then copy the numbers over and plan your trade, or post your trade in your brokerage. We will enable integrations. We're trying to get, this is a bad week for Rick, but we need to get TradeHawk and Tradier to give us partner status so that we can get moving on that. We will do Thinkorswim within reason. The reason I say that is because Thinkorswim has been terrible to work with. They don't respond. They claim they have an API, which is what you need to integrate. It's application program interface. However, they won't give you the documentation, and they won't give us access, etc. So the integration to Thinkorswim will have to be done through their clunky Excel-based DDE interface. It should still work, but it will have limited functionality, and that's just because that's how they will allow us to work. The other one is Interactive Brokers will get set up, sort of the same deal, and we'll get to other. TradeStation has contacted us, and they may be ready to follow up and get going at some point, allowing integrations. But that's where we're at the moment. We don't have the integrations in place. This person that that contacted me by email was interested in TradingView because he paper trades through TradingView. That is not on. This is the first anybody has requested it. I will add that to the list, but with only one user asking about it, it's not going to be a high priority, and I'm just apologize about that. But when we do integrate, it should work like for Thinkorswim to do your paper trading account integrated to this as well. And what that would just mean is you would have one account integrated to a paper trading account, and possibly a different account linked to your live account, I guess I'll call it, your cash account. Jake, so Jake's question for the video is that, or for the recording, he's saying that one trade was 48 or 4186, wherever its number is, I don't care, which is less than 5% of the count. That means I could do 20 trades. Well, if they were all that big, yes. That's what it means, but they're not all that big. As you can see, they're all different sizes. Actually, where's long column? Well, this for open trades that are 100% still open, that is actually showing the position size. Because once you open a trade, until you start taking profits, that's what you've got open. But as you can see, we're achieving pretty good results, like 25.40 in. Jake, it depends on you. I personally don't think it's practical to have that many trades open, but if you were disciplined and you put in the orders, the stop orders in the trade exit orders, there's very little to manage, and so you could have more trades. So for a trader who's sitting in front of his monitor all day and doesn't use hard stops and hard target orders at his target prices, then he's, that's 20 is a lot to manage. But I will tell you that as far back as version 1 of this, I had a lady who is a former floor trader, and she was 30 to 40 to 50 positions open at any one time. But she's used to it, and that's the world she came out of. But for most traders, I think it's impractical to try to manage live your, 20 trades is a lot. And you don't need to trade 20 trades. You can keep yourself protected. You can see that I've got almost $90,000 of a $100,000 account in cash. I've only got, $14,000 in open trades, and we're achieving good results. And let's call it 3 weeks, $2,500, which is 2.5% of the account. So the account has grown 2.5% in 3 weeks based on a maximum of 4 trades a day. This week it'll be 4 trades a week. And this week it'll be 3 trades for the week. And so you don't need to trade big. You don't need to trade all of your money in the market in order to achieve a good goal. And, we're doing this with small percentage of the account invested. Let's call it 15%. It's not, but let's call it that. It's less than 14%. And we can still achieve our goals. That's very conservative. It's very protected. And it's the only way to trade, in my opinion. There's, people who are trying to keep 100% of their money in trades are people who are going to lose a lot of money. They have not figured out that you don't need to do that, and it's poor risk management to do so. Yeah, our TradeHawk is, in fact, that's the first one I would like to do, because Rick and Doug have such a good relationship with them, and they've given us, our members, special pricing. Yeah, that's probably going to be the max, Jake. But let me finish the TradeHawk. So the TradeHawk would be the first integration we put in place, and we'll put Tradier in at the same time. So that will give you the option, if you want to route your trades through TradeHawk, you can. If you want to send them directly to Tradier, you can do that as well. You would plan the trades out in Trader Vision. You would send them to TradeHawk if you want to do fine tuning based on their what do they call that? Geez, I'm drawing a blank on what that bid-ask tool shows you, but that the tower is what they call it. So if you want to fine-tune your entry based on the tower, you can do that. Or, in fact, if you wanted to look for an option, for example, on that GTN trade, you could do that within, just see if any of the chains work up, and then execute the order, and it would pass the results back to Trader Vision. Or if you wanted to do that directly to Trader, you'd be able to do that as well. You'll have the choice. So Jake also asked a question. He was thinking about 7 or 8 trades, possibly 50% of your capital in the market at one time. Yeah, that's probably very doable. As I said, I've got very little here because I'm doing one trade a day at max, and still achieving quite good results. So, do I need to have 50% of my capital employed to achieve results? No, not so much. But is there any reason not to? No, not really. Go ahead and do it. I just want to keep, for good risk management purposes, I want to keep the size of any one position down. So, any other questions? Otherwise, we'll plan a couple trades. Jake, what you receive when you order Trader Vision, that same day you'll receive a video link emailed to you. But if you don't want to wait, you can always go to help tutorial videos. You can get to there from the website as well. And just a second. This is the page that it will take you to. Each of these is a link to a video. And you can see I also post all of the workshops here as well. Tonight, at some point tonight, tonight's webinar will be posted here as well. But you will receive a video link to each of these in order, so that it slowly keeps you on the path to fully using the tool. And then, of course, you're always welcome to come to these weekly webinars. On Thursday night, I have the monthly webinar this month. So tomorrow night at 8 p.m. I'll be doing a webinar as well. And so there's plenty of chances for you to learn about it from a video standpoint. I've got a manual, but I will be honest with you. The user manual is hard to keep updated because development's ongoing, and truthfully, I'm a one-man band here. So I've got to do the videos and write up the manual and take care of the development and the testing and support and all of these things. And it's too much for me to keep that up. But I will, at some point, get it all updated. And there are a lot of features that are not covered in it yet. So that's where we're at. I'll be completely upfront with you on that sort of stuff. Yeah, Art, no. Well, let's do the first question here. Art says he likes Doug's rule, have not achieved it yet, but trimming positions to keep it at 80% of funds in the Stay Rich account and 20% of the funds in the Get Rich account. Yeah, it takes some work. And for anybody who doesn't know what he's talking about, there is that's basically how Doug divides up his money, and it allows him to be more conservative, longer term positions in the Stay Rich account, and take 20% of his money in a little more risky approach, although he's still very conservative. And that's what he calls his Get Rich account. And then Art also asked about, in the beginning there were questions about posting and tracking options, and the answer is no. There is no progress there yet. I can't get to it. Right now I'm working on the scanning module, which will make Trader Vision very similar to TC2000 in that sense, that you'll be able to scan the market and look for rounded bottom breakouts, or for J hooks, or for bullish engulfing signals, or what have you. So it will fill in the gap of helping you find positions, and then you validate positions. yeah, it's a task, and there's a lot going on. I've got two developers now, and trying to keep everybody all the code in sync and what have you. So it's some work, but we're making progress, and we will get the scanning widget done, and we will get the integrations done, and then we will get into the options. That's going to be a major project, but we will get there. It's just it takes time. So, any other questions? If not, let's plan a couple trades. I don't see anybody typing, so I'm going to go ahead and assume we don't. Let's look for a couple tickers, unless anybody has one. I'm just going to zip down through my list and see if there's anything I really like to plan. Yeah, Roku's on my list here someplace. Yeah, let's do it the hard way. I've been looking at it since back here at this doji continuation pattern. We also had a bullish engulfing signal here a couple days ago. Long rounded bottom. It's not a very long stock. Hasn't been public for very long. You can see that this is what I believe to be was support, was resistance. That's probably the next resistance level. So if we were to get an entry here, let's just assume that we made an entry just above today's close. So let's put that there with a stop. Probably down below this support level. Let's see what the V-stop says is 43.29. That is way down here. That's too much, way too much. So we're going to have to depend on this support level to protect our stop. And that's going to be our first target. Now let's see, run the numbers and see if it works out. So let's go to a different account. This is a different account. I forget the account balance on this, but I've asked to have it $125 max risk in this account. Yeah, we don't even have enough data to provide patterns yet. So we've got 4 bullish factors out of, let's call them 5, and 1 bearish factor, which is the short-term market bias. But if you wanted to go with that, let's do a single entry, single target. Let's see. Let's call it 46.80 as an entry. And 45 as a stop. Is that about right? 45, close enough. We could adjust that a little bit. With a first target up here about 51.50, something like that. In this particular account, it says I can do 69 shares. I think that's going to be too big, but let's try 60. It tells me that if I bought 60, no, that's going to work. So let's do 100. If I do 100 shares, it's 3% of the account, 3.6, which is 4,600, but I've got $180 of risk. The only way that's going to work is if I have plenty of profit at that first target. it's giving me about 2.6 to 1. So will I risk 180 bucks, which is 3.85% of the entry, for a chance to make 10%, $470? You have to answer that yourself, 2.6 to 1. But if so, that's how I would plan out the trade. Earnings are out of the way. So if I took this position, I would set my entry trigger above 46.78. Okay, so that would work out if you were able to get this first target, and there's nothing here that says that you won't. It certainly looks like a good setup. It seems to have held that breakout level today, and that is clearly the next target up here around 51.60. So taking profits just before there. I see some typing, so I'm going to hang on for a second. A conditional order. It's a limit order, but it's a conditional order. So I use Interactive Brokers. There are a lot of, almost all brokerages provide conditional orders, and I know that Rick said that TradeHawk just put that in today. So the idea of the condition is, I would say that price has to have opened below, 48, whatever I said this was, 45, 46.80, and then it trades up through 46.80. That's the type of condition I would say, and my limit price would be 46.80. And those are the type of conditions that you use. You can also base it off of other. You can make them as sophisticated as you want. So you could say, I want that condition. So it opens below 46.80, trades up through 46.80, but also I want the SPY to be trading above, 275, for example. So the overall market is not down. So you could do that as well. A lot of things you can do. I really can't talk about conditional orders. That's more of a brokerage type question, but you can get extremely sophisticated, and I have in the past put particularly SPY, diamonds, Qs, that sort of thing, conditions on a trade. All right, you wanted to look at Huntsman. Come on, TC2000. Ooh. Well, it has fallen off there's nothing here to plan. It has fallen off there's no new entry here. So no new trade plan will be in place, and I certainly don't have a trade open on that, so I can't review an open chart. So I would not plan that. Maybe it was Honeywell, but even that's been down. So again, I can't speak to that. UUP. You can see I don't trade a lot of ETFs anymore, so I don't mark them up. Let's go to a weekly chart. Someplace in there we've got resistance and support. On up here, Let's call that resistance and support. I think we're dealing with a level right now. And let's put one below. That looks pretty good in there. So that would be our support below. Going back to a daily. Wow, these are little candles. It doesn't move much because it's a Forex based fund. You can see that we're holding a level here. We've had a little pullback and we're trying to break out, holding that breakout level. If we do run, we're looking for something to run into resistance up here. So as a stock trade, I'm not sure this makes sense. As an options trade, you might have the leverage to make this make sense. I don't even really want to plan it because, you know, even if we use a really tight stop, you're talking about, you know, a 1% stop. And if you ran up to that next resistance, that's only, you know, 2%. So, yeah, that's not going to make a lot of sense. Mallinckrodt is another case altogether. Mallinckrodt is something that I've traded and been watching. Remember that you've got a risk overhang from these guys. They're potentially, they've been warned about being, they've been warned about possibly being delisted because they have missed, I think, the last one, maybe the last two earnings report dates. So they have not reported at least once when they were supposed to, possibly twice. So they have been warned by the exchange. But this is a great little J-hook, had a Morningstar type signal. It broke out here. Now we've kind of popped up here. You can see that I would have had an entry right there. This is a position I had marked up and talked to Rick about for a feature trade idea, but we decided not to. At this point, you can see there's the 200. You can see there is a resistance level. So I certainly would not do a new entry close to resistance, close to my target. But had I opened, I'm not sure if I did or not. Let me pull it up. Let me see if I find MK. No. Oh, MN. MNK. Yeah, I did. So actually I did have one. 517. Way back when. So it would have been someplace in here. Yeah, it would have been on that candle, breaking out probably at the highs when I entered. But you're probably more interested up here, and I don't have anything at that level, so I don't have a planned trade to look at, to follow up on. But this is an open trade that should have been closed long ago. I don't get into the sample account all the time. It's more for demonstrations and webinars. But this is something that should have been executed. Let's just say that we, whatever, let's say that we got out at 19 bucks. So I'm sorry, but those don't work out real well for a plan. Let's do one new plan so that I feel like I've given you something. You want to look into it? Okay. This is going to be an options trade, which I can't really plan for you here. Trader Vision is not options enabled, but you can see that we've got a breakout here. I think this is at all times. Let's go to a weekly. Yeah, there's your weekly trend. Monthly, yeah, we're at all-time highs, so we're going to have to use fibs, and our fibs are going to be drawn off of this low and that high. We did a 23.6 pullback. My first target would be up in here at the 38.2. My second target would be at 61.8. So those would be my targets. And let's assume something like that is the trend. So, ooh, grab the wrong thing. Looking like that is our targets. Again, my entry would have been down here on the breakout, so it's kind of late to plan a new entry. But that's what I would do. Let me just do one of mine here. Let's do ACCO. So let's get rid of that. New trade. ACCO. Earnings are out of the way. We had this nice bullish engulf of a doji yesterday, but today we just have the doji. Let's just plan this as if this plan I had laid out here is going to work. So let's do one entry, two exits. If we get an entry tomorrow at, what did I say there, 1350, and our stop, V-stop says 1334 is where we can be. So let's move that up. That's going to be extremely tight. But let's say 13. Well, let's just do 1330, 20 cents. First target is up here about 14.25. Second target is up here about 14.65. Says we can do 625 shares. Let's just try 600. That's going to be too much for this account, so let's drop that down to 400 and see what that does for us. Still 4% of the account, but let's say I can live with it. It's only 80 bucks risk with that tight of a stop. And it doesn't look like this is a gappy stock, so that might work. Let's take off half of it at the first target. We would be getting almost 4 to 1, 3.75 to 1, 150 bucks. And if we take the rest off at the second target, up here we're looking at 8.5% to that second target, which is another $230, and we would make our trade goal. So we have to see if we truly believe we're going to make those two targets. This is at all-time highs, and so, or not all-time highs. So we've got support and resistance that match up very well to these fibs. So that's where I would set it, and I would say we've got a high probability here. So that would be my trade plan for ACCO. Looking for a little intraday entry of slightly less than where we closed, picking up an extra nickel there. David, you want to look at AVGO? Okay. Again, this is going to be an options trade, and again, I can't plan options trades with Trader Vision. So I don't know what I can tell you here, but if it was a stock trade, let's go to a weekly. I don't know. Let's go crazy and say it was like that. So those are our two goals. Here's the fib run that we would measure it off of and see how that lines up. There's the low, I think. Just check low. Yeah, So that's the low, that's the high. It matches up extremely tightly to this line that we drew. This line is kind of out in no man's land, so it probably is closer to that 38. But let's just say it, oh no, it matches up dead money. Right on there. So those are your two targets. So on an entry, I don't like that gap up, kind of a gravestone type doji, but if you got some follow through, where are we going to put our stop? Let's see what V-stop says. V-stop says 269.84. So it's probably still negative. Yeah. So I can't use V-stop. I'm going to have to use below these lows. And that's not going to work. You know, so for a stock trade, I'm risking this to make that. That's not going to give me anywhere near 2 to 1. And so that's a pass. You know, the only thing that I could do is just pull this up in here and hope that, and it's really just hope at this point that you know, because look at the size of these candles. I'm really going to, just looking at the size of these candles, that's what I'm going to be needing to risk. And again, that's not going to give me 2 to 1. So I apologize, but that's just not going to be a trade plan that I would want to put in place. Okay, guys, we've been here an hour. If you have any questions, let me know and I will answer them. Otherwise, let's call this good enough for today. And again, we have the monthly workshop tomorrow night, so you can always bring your questions there. And we'll plan some more tickers tomorrow night for sure. You're welcome, Jake. Thank you. Okay, guys, thank you. Have a great evening. Let me just put up, let's go over here. If anybody needs to contact me, you can always reach me at ed@tradervision2020.com, support@tradervision2020.com, and basically if you use the support ticket function within the software, that will send an email to this support address. The daily blog I showed you, make sure you check that out each day. And then the YouTube channel, please look up TraderVision 2020 V2 and go ahead and subscribe. You'll get those morning videos each morning. Thanks, guys.